Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fortnite Story. I'm joined alongside an awesome veteran of the Fortnite space, Fray. He's joining us to share everything he's got going on. What's up, Fray?
What's up? What's up? I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. It's been a good start to the morning. I know you're well ahead of me, so your day's
Yeah.
on the opposite end. But thank you for joining me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. So I would love to get started just understanding how exactly you've started in Fortnite because if I remember right, you used to live in NA, then you went to EU and you've traveled back and forth all over the place. Like not even just within Fortnite, obviously that's your
Mhm.
entire life moving all over, but if you could tell us a little bit about that journey.
I was born in Germany and I lived there for 2 months. And when I was 2 months old as a baby, I moved to Venezuela in South America with my parents because of the job of my dad had at the time. My brother was born there, and then from there we moved to New York. We lived there for 7 years. Then we moved to Peru. I lived in Peru for 8 years. My parents still live in Peru. My dad was born in Peru, so that was one of the major factors of us moving there. And when I was in Peru finishing school in a German school there, that's when I started grinding Fortnite. So basically, for the first 1.5 years that I was playing Fortnite, it was from Peru, playing on NA servers from Peru. So I was playing on 100 ping like minimum. And people always ask me like, why not just play Brazil servers? But they were almost the same ping, and NA just had a lot more prize pool and was more competitive. So that's I think why I played NA, and I had friends from NA. So yeah, for the first 1.5 years I played Fortnite, I was just on high ping.
That's pretty
Uh,
cool. How old are
yeah,
you?
I'm 21.
Okay, so basically you were about 17, 18 when you started playing the
Yeah,
game. Nice,
yeah,
nice. And how many languages do you speak? Because you just mentioned Germany, the US, obviously you speak English, and then
yeah.
Peru, Venezuela.
I speak German, Spanish, and English fluently, and then I just learned like a little bit of French in school, but like I can basically just only say hello.
Same. Don't ask me anything in French or German or Spanish for that
Yeah,
matter, but that's really cool. I feel like that's a very European thing. In the United States, people know like English and they know like their version of English because there's so many different accents, and then
yeah.
maybe Spanish, but that's about it.
Yeah, I think like a lot of people that are born in the United States, I feel like like a lot of them don't really like travel outside of the US because the United States is like so huge. Getting to know like every place in the States is already like such a huge thing. It's not like in Europe where you can just like go to I don't know Italy for a day. So yeah, a lot of people don't even move out of the States in the US, I think.
Yeah, well, you basically can get everything that you need besides like the other cultures. That's the one thing that
Yeah.
you miss. Like the geographical stuff, there's pretty much everything within the
Yeah.
US. But it is really cool. I got a chance to travel Europe, and I mean, Italy was my favorite place I've ever been to. Specifically Venice, and then I was in the Alps for a little bit. So I loved being in a different place because it's very different. But for you, like you've traveled and lived in several different places, not just like been there. What has been like your favorite place that you've lived in, and why?
I'd have to say Peru. Because I think one thing is that the people there are like super nice. Like if I compare them to like the average like German person, I don't know, like they're so stressed and they're so strict. Peru, like people are very kind. We had like we basically went to the beach every weekend. And I had a super cool friend group there, so yeah, and the food is great there as well. So I think those are like the main reasons I like Peru the most. And if I could play Fortnite on like zero ping in Peru, I would definitely go to Peru, but I can't, so
Well, that's where your family lives too, so that makes
yeah.
sense why that would be the best spot. New York didn't come up there at all. Like, not a fan.
Well, New York was nice. We lived like 40 minutes away from New York. I don't know if you know White Plains.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean for the first 4 years we lived in Connecticut and then we moved to White Plains. That was super cool as well. I went to a German school there, and I don't know, that was definitely cool as well, but it can't compete against Peru.
I can imagine. I'm not a fan. I lived probably 40 minutes south of New York City most of my
Mm,
life, and like it's cool for events and stuff, but New York City is way overhyped. If
yeah.
I'm going to recommend like a place for somebody to visit within the U.S., it's not going to be New York City. Especially recently, it's kind of shitty. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, there's a lot of awesome things to see, like the mountain range out in like I live in North Carolina, so Western North Carolina is beautiful. I
Mm,
love that, and the beaches. I grew up on the beach, so anywhere I can get to go to the beach and enjoy that is where I'm gonna want to go.
yeah.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Fortnite. I guess
Hmm.
that's what you're doing. So you're playing Fortnite for Loot Boy Esports, and how
Yeah.
long have you been with Loot Boy?
Not that long. I think like 4 months ish, out of the top of my head.
Okay, and how's that going so far?
It's awesome. We've already in those past 4 months we went to Sweden together in the DreamHack LAN. We just went to Gamescom in Cologne, or I think that's how do you say it in English? In German it's
Cologne's
just
right,
Köln.
yeah.
Okay. We just went there for the Gamescom, and it's cool to. It's kind of like a family. And we do a lot of stuff together. It's great. Yeah, I'm happy being there.
Nice. Yeah, I worked with them doing like a makeshift broadcast
Mm.
probably 2 years ago almost. It was back when I think who was on there? Kiko. Kiko was like the
Mm.
rising star back then.
Yeah.
And they had a few other big name players, but it definitely was when they first started doing things. And it seems
Hmm.
like just now, from an outward facing perspective, Loot Boy seems to be much more organized and understanding of the space because I feel like there's definitely a big learning curve. If you've done other esports and then you come into Fortnite, it's just a smack in the face because it's
Yeah.
very different. You're not going to get the support from Epic and you have to figure everything out yourself. So
Hmm.
once people figure that out, they tend to do pretty well.
Yeah. Fortnite is super hard for orgs, I think.
And then for you, it seemed like this past season has been like a rebirth, right? You had
Mhm.
pretty was it last summer you were having a lot are you just like was it last summer you had a lot of success?
Um, to be honest, I don't think I ever was really that good. I mean, like my best season, I think where I was doing really good was obviously like the Flopper Island, like Fray Island, the season like DreamHack Sweden, DreamHack Anaheim back in 2019, I think it was, or like the
Okay.
start of 2020. That's where I think I was really good. And then I think for a while it was hard for me to catch up to like being a good IGL and really learning from the best. Um, and yeah, I feel like I was kind of like just mediocre for a while, and then right now I'm super confident playing with Flixie. He's super super good, and I feel like like I saw Pink say once that if you put in a lot of work in one season, you're not immediately gonna notice the results. And I think that's kind of what happened to me. Like I just kept improving my fundamentals and kept learning more about how to be a good IGL and what to do in certain situations. That's kind of like why I'm doing better now, and then that combined with Flixie being a super good player, I'm super confident with him. Like I don't see myself like ever not making a grands with him, and I think we should have easily placed top seven, but we just got contested. But go
Yeah.
next.
Yeah, you guys had a better day 2 than a day 1. What was the
Yeah.
difference between those 2 days? Did you make any major adjustments? Like what allowed you to be so successful on that second day?
Um, I think day one, I don't know what it was, but we both made like small mistakes that just like costed our games. Maybe it was because we were nervous. I don't really know. But we made like two small mistakes off spawn that costed us two games, and then like one game we should have won. We had high ground, made a mistake. So and then instead of like just being sad because we were in 38th place after day one, instead of just like doing nothing and just like kind of giving up, I don't know. I sat there for like 3 4 hours, like valued every game and valued other people. Like I valued Yanis because they were in first place. Learned from that as well, and then we learned from our mistakes off spawn, and then we just went to day two super confident. Like we were like, we can definitely come back. Like we can do this. And then we ended I think ninth in day two, and then 25th overall. So we were super happy that we at least came back.
Yeah, it's a pretty solid improvement day over day.
Yeah.
For you, you guys were just straight 50-50, if I remember, right?
Yeah, like a butter barn is really complicated to spawn because like sometimes it's straight 50-50, but there's always two sides.
Right.
So we had way better drops because we like prepared drop maps and stuff like that. So if they get out dropped, they can just land on the other side of butter barn, and then it's kind of just RNG at that point. Like sometimes they got really good loot, sometimes we got better loot. It's a super complicated spot to contest. Like it was never contested in any grands or any finals. I think I don't know why they decided to con. I think they just hoped that we would leave. But at least we're probably gonna get uncon next finals if it's still there.
Yeah, well, and speaking to NPen, who landed there for NA East, he said it wasn't worth landing at as an uncontested duo. So I can only
Yeah,
imagine what it was like landing there, trying to split it some games, fight over it, spend all your heals, and walking away with a gray two shot and a Ranger AR in your inventory.
it's
Oof.
horrible. It's a horrible spot.
But you're
Like
still
we
going back?
um like the thing is, if there's like a new spot that comes out that I can maybe like try to claim, I would. But I think right now I kind of have to settle for worse spots because like in any if I for example if I take a tier 1 spot, I'm gonna get contested by a tier 1 player. It doesn't matter. But now at least I think I have a bit more respect on my name because people contested us, took 49th place. Um, but yeah, if there's like if there's a better spot that comes out, that's the 50-50 spot. Which means I can just grind drops and everybody knows that I'm just gonna grind drops, so they might not risk contesting me. Then I would do that. But if not, then I'd just stick to what we know.
And so walk me through that whole claiming of drop spots, because this is huge and a lot of people don't necessarily understand how it all works. There's certain teams that basically have gained respect that you just don't contest. They claim something that is their spot, right? And then there's also, it seems like on EU you guys throw those rules out the window, because on NA, like, you don't contest Booga. He got
Yeah,
contested this season. You don't contest Scented. He got contested this season. And then, like, throwing it over to Europe, like, Tayson normally should be uncontested, but he had the 50-50 off spawn. And it's just been
yeah.
a wild season, I feel like, because now everyone just threw all those rules out the window. Um, what is, like, claiming a drop spot? Like, how does that even work? And do you think anyone even has the respect to get an uncon drop spot?
Um, Especially in the EU, I think it's super hard to get like to actually claim an uncon drop that's extremely good. Like we saw with Tayson this season. I don't know, like I don't know why you would contest somebody like Tayson, even if it's a really good spot, because nobody's ever gonna do good in Grands 50-50ing a spot. Like you're not gonna win Grands, you're not gonna place top five like usually. So I don't know why people would contest somebody like that. I think spots are like less 50-50 and more like skill based. Like I don't know, maybe like Jones is. Like I don't think that's really ever gonna get contested because if you contest that, you're just gonna get third partied and die as well. But Fortnite is a bit like I always saw Fortnite as a bit of a snowball effect. Like if you start doing really good, people respect you more. You claim better spots. You do good with those spots. You claim even better spots. Like a huge part of Fortnite is just landing in a good spot, especially in grands. Like it just gives you a huge advantage over everybody else. Um, but like we saw with Booga and Tayson, I think it's pretty surprising. Like even though you're the best part of your region or one of the best, you're getting contested now. I don't know why that's the case, but uh, it's just how it is, I guess. But yeah, spots are extremely important.
Yeah, I think the contesting has to do kind of with the qual system. Is somebody could practice and plan their entire season around landing a drop spot, and, like, say, did Tayson qual week 1? I don't remember.
Uh, Either week 1 or week 2, I don't remember.
So they qual in, like, the first week, and then somebody else fills that spot, lands there. They've also practiced it, and then it's just unfortunate. There's really nothing you can do about it. Some teams will leave, but it was Andalex and Xweez landing on him. Um,
No, in Grands it was it was Podasai and I don't know, Snazy, I think, or I don't know who Podasai was playing with.
I'll figure that one out in a second. But nonetheless, it's like this weird game of, do you actually get your spot unconned? It was Podesai and X-Squeeze was the duo
Okay.
landing on them. And they both finished about middle of the pack. I think Tayson got like lower 20s, maybe 15. And then
Hmm.
looks like Podesai and X-Squeeze were 27, just looking at it now.
Yeah.
Um, but it just doesn't work. But at the same time, like there has been this thing within Fortnite where people are willing to give up one season of grand finals to almost prove that they're not going to leave. And then that way, the hope is that next season, someone will see what happened the previous season. They're like, oh, I'm not landing on these guys. They're not going to leave. They're willing to do that. Do you think that's true, first of all? And like, do you think there's value in griefing a drop spot for an entire season to hopefully do better next season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely true. If you show people you're not afraid of leaving, then they're gonna have more respect of you, especially if you do good against, if you do like better off spawn in like a grand final or any finals lobby. But I don't see like that. Thinking like that won't work against, for example, Tayson. Like Tayson won't care. You can contest him three FNCS finals. He won't leave for the fourth one. Because he's just a top tier player and he made so much money. Like he's not gonna leave. So I don't know why you would contest someone like him. But for the most part, that's definitely true. Like when we saw that we were contested in Butterbarn this Grands, we had to think like, I mean, either we leave and dip like they are hoping that we will, and then contest somewhere else because we're not getting any spot uncon anyways, or do we just like show that we have like the balls basically to contest and stay at a spot that we practiced, and then hopefully get it uncon. Like we thought maybe they're gonna dip after like 1 or 2 games, but they stuck all 12 games. But just showing that we will stick there and them that like ending in last place, like I'm 100% sure we're gonna get Butterbarn uncon in like any finals lobby now, which is pretty good. Even though it's not that good of a spot, having a spot that you can get uncon every time and that you have practice is pretty good.
Yeah, having an area that you can lock in is massive. I mean, if you there hasn't been many examples of a team leaving wherever they were landing and winning.
Yeah.
I think Day, Miro, and Reverse were like the one that comes to mind when they were landing. I forget the name of the POI, but essentially they went some like slums split on the outside of the map, got like 15 to 19 chests, and just won an FNCS out of that. But that's the rare example. Most of the time, the teams that are doing the best are taking one of those top tier drop spots and making sure they have everything. So
Yeah.
only makes sense. Now as far as this meta, I know we just had a massive shift, but how do you feel about the grapple gloves? Like if you could build a perfect meta within Fortnite, because we're heading towards what is going to be the biggest Fortnite tournament in almost 3 years with the FNCS Invitational. Do you think we're in a good spot now? Does anything need to change? And then with all the new things just thrown into the game with this most recent patch, is there anything you would want to keep from that or get out?
Um, I don't like items that give you like a bailout if when you do like when you make a mistake or something like that. So, for example, the like shield bubble just got added, and I think a lot of players like it, but I don't really like it because you can just do like a bad rotate and then just throw a shield bubble when you're getting lobby sprayed. Or, I saw Sadie was doing like a boat rotate, just putting the shield bubble on a boat and rotating with the boat. I don't know. I like items that like I don't really like a lot of items that give you that sort of bailout or even movement items, like even grappler. I don't think it's good that people like I don't know 10 teams right off the bat in Grands have a huge advantage over everybody else just because they can get out of certain situations because they can just grapple and everybody else has to run. So I think that ideal meta would just be zero movement or maybe just pads, but even that I think like just makes people play weird. I think in a meta with zero movement, and that was also the meta that I was really good at, so I'm a bit biased, but I think zero movement meta just makes everybody have to play way smarter and it's just gonna yeah, it's just the most skilled meta in my opinion. So if I could play or if I could decide what the meta would be in Fortnite, it would definitely be like zero movement and then just put some movement on the map. Like maybe like the geysers we have now are good. Slipstreams are good. But yeah, I don't like bailout items. or just like RNG items. Like if you get 3 pads off spawn, you're gonna have a better game than somebody who doesn't. Like I don't like those type of items.
You're one of the few I feel like that actually says that, or at least one of the
Yeah.
few people I've spoken to, because that's what I believe is like the purest form of Fortnite is there's only map-based movement, and then it's all the
Mhm.
stuff that pretty much turns off towards the end of the game. So then just like a pure end game, and everyone is on a level-ish playing field. Obviously, it's never going to be perfect,
Yeah.
but with like especially the grappler more than anything, like at least launch pads can be reused, so there's some
Yeah.
kind of mass benefit from a launch pad. But I mean, the grapplers essentially changed the way end games were played over the past couple of seasons because everyone just gets ahead, and then if you don't have one and you're on the backside of the zone, you're just screwed. Everyone's gonna look back, and good luck. You're spending
Yeah.
tons of mats. You're getting beamed and probably going down, or your shambles making those rotates if you don't do it properly. And there is
Mhm.
ways, like obviously some teams have succeeded without them, so I don't want to say it's
Yeah.
like 100% impossible, but I would love to see a zero movement meta, or like at most we get like peppers. Like that would be
Yeah.
okay with me. And this year, I feel like the only thing that's really changed has been the movement. Like it was cars at first, then it was launch pads, and then we had the grapples, and that's pretty much been the change season to season. So it's interesting. I mean, the way we're trending is less movement. So we've went from cars to launch pads to grapples. Now, do we get nothing for the invitation? We'll see. Um,
Yeah,
I
but that's
don't.
an interesting way to think about it. I haven't thought about it. That's true though. We have been getting less movement every season this year. But even like small things like why do like two teams on the map get a car? Like Jones's and I don't know, I think Coney or something. Like just remove all cars. Why would you keep two? So I don't get those type of things. But yeah, I would love playing a zero movement meta, but I think I'm not sure with everybody getting smarter and smarter, like having zero movement at all maybe would make like RNG even better. Like pulling zones would be like even more advantageous. I don't really know. We would have to see. So I don't know. Maybe just pads or something like that. But I
Yeah,
think regardless of what Fortnite does, people are gonna complain and hate the meta. So
that seems to be the fact. Or like say it's awesome at one point and then terrible at another, and then it's
yeah,
still the same thing. Pretty much always going to be someone that doesn't like what the choices are. Because, I mean, there's what, probably a couple hundred, a few hundred professional Fortnite players at this point. So inevitably, someone won't like what's going on.
yeah,
I would like to see like a ton of map based movement if we're going to do no movement. That way, like you said, it's not totally RNG, and there's ways to avoid going down on those long rotates, or even people using boats and stuff like that to figure out how to get around the islands. One thing I'd be interested to know is, have you thought about using fishing again? Because like flopper fray is a real thing. You succeeded a lot using floppers and kind of helping create that like heal in storm late game meta that then I think Jack, Acorn, no, Jack and Slacks, was it Jack, Slacks, and Acorn? I don't know. But those guys used it then to like take high ground and make plays like that. Have you thought about doing that at all this season, or in previous
Mhm.
seasons after that like singular uh, time period when it was popular?
Um, I think there's just like there's better healing now. Like you have splashes, you have med mist. Those two I think are better than having four floppers. Um, and also in like a grand finals lobby or any finals lobby, you have to be like a lot faster. Like you don't really have time to fish, and I don't think it's worth it at all right now. But if there's like a zero movement meta and maybe like Madness gets removed or something, I think floppers would be super viable again.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even think about that, but you're right. You don't have time to sit there and fish, especially get a worthwhile inventory of floppers or slurp fish to make
Yeah,
it even worthy of carrying. So
yeah.
interesting.
Also, the nerf made like a big difference. I think like it's only 10 HP, but I don't know. I feel like they're so much worse now since the nerf.
Well, it's an extra tick, an extra second in storm that you now
Yeah,
get. And because like it takes 1 second to eat it, you would net 40 before, and now you're only netting 30 each
Hmm.
time you pop one. So it's definitely not as useful. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. Now, going back to the invitational, you're invited as a backup player.
Yeah.
How you feeling about that?
It was awesome. Like I was thinking about going anyways. Like I was trying to like beg my Loot Boy manager basically like, "Yo, I'd help you guys like make videos and stuff. Like please just pay for my flight and hotel." So I was thinking about going anyways. And then when we were like all we were playing creative with my friend group like 3v3s, and then somebody saw a tweet about somebody like saying he was a backup player, and then Kylie, a good friend of mine, was the first one to leave out of the lobby to instantly check if he got a message, and then he like slammed his desk, said like nah, I didn't get a message, and then at that point I thought for me it's like over because Kylie plays better than me in the last grands. And then I just like left thinking nothing of it, and then I saw the message and I screamed like I was extremely happy. And then when we actually got the confirmation that we're getting flow now and have everything paid for us is it's gonna be a super awesome experience because especially after Saudi, like I was just sitting at home pretty sad that I wasn't at Saudi and I saw everybody having fun and just being together and having this awesome experience that you're just never gonna forget in your whole entire life. Uh, it sucks to be home and just watch it happen. So I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity and I'm hyped for NA.
Yeah, it should be awesome. And I saw you. I think you were asking Queasy to try and bring you as like his +1 or something like that
Yeah,
before you got
I
the
was I
backup.
was down bad. I was trying to get people to like to get me as their guardian and like stuff like that. But yeah,
Bro,
I'm happy I'm going.
I wouldn't say that's down bad. I mean, if I found a way to like get a free trip to anywhere for the most part, I would take that. Like hell yeah.
Yeah,
Like especially because there's a lot of people who don't necessarily need a guardian, but if they're under 18, you can kind of finagle that, and Fray as the chaperone is helping
yeah,
everyone around. Oh man. Does Loot Boy have anyone going, or are you the singular Loot Boy
yeah.
player?
Hydro and Belusi quad.
Okay.
They're going, and then I'd be going. So us three, and then a manager and the owner of Blue Boy wants to go as well. So we would be five.
Nice, nice. We'll have to catch up when we're there.
Yeah, 100%.
And then do you do you think there's any shot that you play? Like, what are
Nah,
the no?
there's no shot. I mean, I saw Boop said it in his stream, and I think it's true. The big advantage of playing with somebody like me is you know that you're gonna go into the finals 100% prepared, and I'm gonna know what to do in every zone pull. But that's not the case with the backup player. Like you're going in with zero preparation, basically. Like I don't think there's that much time to even prepare anything. So there's gonna be like just realistically, there's gonna be better options than me, like Kanata, Hellfire, Andalex, Deceptus. Like there's so many good players that people are gonna pick before me. But I'm fine with that. Like I'm super happy to go there anyways, even though I'm not gonna play. It's just gonna be an awesome experience either way.
I mean, you do kind of have an advantage. If there's a Spanish player, there's a German player, there's an English speaking player, and there's no other options. Like I haven't looked at, who speaks what language out of the backup players, but that could be a big advantage for you. Someone that needs, a Spanish speaker or German speaker.
Yeah, that's true, I guess. I mean, but I'd rather like go into an A being like in my head being like sure I'm not gonna play and being okay with that rather than like hoping like the whole time that oh hopefully I'm gonna play, you know? So I'd rather just go in thinking I'm not gonna play.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's the right mentality to have around it too, and it
Hmm.
should be a sick experience, based on what they've done over the past year for like player experiences, whether it be just recording for content or the media days. Blast and the Epic team have seemed to take care of you guys and done a really good job of it, putting you up in nice hotels, taking care of the food, and even like adding those experiences. So,
Hmm.
regardless of if you get to play or not, it's gonna be 100% worth it, and I'm sure you won't forget the experience.
Yeah, 100%.
Would love to get like a way too early prediction of the invitational. I know
Hmm.
you may have not thought about it, but I'm gonna ask you to think about it now and kind of give me one. Is it 100% EU? And if so, you got to give me a team. And then who from some of the other regions you think will do well?
So I don't know if there's a map for the Invitational. If there is, I haven't looked at the map at all.
Not yet. It's
But
absolutely shambles. It's like three teams landing both splits of the central part of the map, and it will
yeah.
change, but it's
Yeah,
not.
so yeah, what happens in these types of tournaments if people qualify from all around the world is that the best teams from every region usually claim the best spot. So those spots are probably going to be contested because everybody wants to land at their spot and they did really good at it. They like were the best in the region from the spot, so they want to keep landing there. So those spots are going to be a bit crazy. Like I don't know, maybe some respect like the team landing there and leave, but I think there's definitely going to be a lot of ego drop spot battles at Invitational. Um, I think Yanis and Vadial have uncon Greasy. Like I think Kanada's only backup player, so I don't think anybody will contest them. If they have Greasy Uncon, they're winning. Like they're just so consistent right now. They're so good. Yanis has been putting in more time than normally. Vadial used to be a non-grinder. He's grinding his heart out. Like they deserve it. They're popping off. They're super good. So I think like if they get Greasy Uncon, they're winning it. But EU's definitely gonna dominate Invitational. Like we saw it at Saudi as well. Like EU in top 10, I don't know, there were so many EU teams. EU is just ahead. People that like still think that that's not true are just a bit biased. Like EU is just a way stronger region, and the teams there just know how to play better. So I think EU is definitely gonna dominate. Like my guess would be maybe in top 10, like it's gonna be like at least 6 EU teams in top 10, like
That's
minimum.
I would expect probably six. I was even gonna say seven.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, probably gonna be one surprise from one of the smaller regions.
Yeah.
Obviously, like Epic Whale and Reet have proven themselves on a more global stage, not 100% this kind of lobby. And then there's a couple NA East teams that I think will do really well. But like you said, I used to like hate that whole conversation of like EU's better than everyone else, but watching how finals play out and talking to people regularly, it is true. Like you guys have the practice, you have people grinding their ass off trying to get better, and I don't see that in other regions. Maybe, I have a blind spot somewhere and I can't actually see it, but I
Mhm.
think that will pay dividends, especially when it comes to this kind of international competition where the stage is set and nobody can hide from any excuse. It's literally what effort you put in, the practice, the time, and it shows when it comes to the game. So that is interesting. Definitely agree with your picks. I mean, if Giannis Fadil get uncons, they have a huge advantage because I mean everyone is going to believe that they're the best team at their drop. At least I would hope so if you're going into an event like this. And then we'll see how it changes over time. I think most people like the interesting and like the crowd favorite early is like Malibuca and Mustache, just
Yeah.
because of how they've been playing recently. Have you watched any of them? Have you seen like how
Yeah.
exactly they play?
No, they're crazy. I mean, I prefer watching like if I'm gonna VOD review, I prefer watching somebody else though, like maybe like Seti and Kami, who I think are gonna probably dominate Invitational as well. But because like they're just so insane, like they're so fast, they hit every shot that they get out of situations they shouldn't, and they go for plays that like people would think are bad plays, but it works because it's them. Um, but I think they're also, I think people, like, for a while, I thought they're just, like, two kind of, like, dumb players that are just so good that they can get out of any situation. But I think they're also a lot smarter than people think. Um, but if I'm gonna value somebody, I prefer learning from, like, a really, like, solid game plan where you don't really need refreshes rather than just watching, like, two crazy players. Like, they're so good. But if I'm gonna learn from a team, I usually pick somebody else.
Yeah, that makes sense. I enjoy it from like a third party perspective, knowing that I'm never actually going to be able to do that. So just
Yeah.
enjoy watching it. But for someone like yourself, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Um,
because if I watch them and then try to copy the way they're playing, I'm just gonna die because I go for like dumb pre plays and stuff. Like it's not worth it.
yeah, no, they literally just decide to pre-edit, and then like 2 seconds later, the wall's down. They're shooting somebody. It's like, what the heck just happened? And I'm sure
Yeah.
teams that get pre-edited by them think the same thing. Like, we were chilling in our box just a second ago, and what? Okay. Um, the cool thing about
Yeah.
them is like they may have not discussed this, but it seems whenever I've watched them is they always seem to shoot the same person after the pre-edit goes down, and then it's just like quickly that 2v1 and nobody's really putting shots back. So it's an interesting team to watch, and I want to see how like a Buga and Miro are able to compete with that on a mid ground,
Hmm.
because that's a team that I think at least like conceptually will clash with them several times. And Buga and Miro aren't really a team that likes to fight towards endgame.
Yeah.
Um, and if they're forced to, that could be a huge issue. But then I also think they're a smart enough team to understand what's going on and try and figure out ways around it, or know that okay, someone's on our wall, it's probably those two. We're going to have to like commit to this rather than trying to run away, because once you run, you're screwed.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's definitely gonna be interesting to see. But I think like just with how confident Malibu and Mercedes are, like they won't care who's in their lobby. They're just gonna pre down everybody, kill everybody, and like probably they're definitely gonna end up in top five. I think if they don't get contested, like at least top five, probably top three.
Yeah,
But we'll see.
I think so too. Is there any teams from NA or any of the other regions you think will do well outside of the EU teams?
Um, I don't really watch that much NA. But I think I mean I don't know if Buga and Miro are gonna be contested. But if they're uncon, like they're both they have such a solid game plan. They've always been so good. They've dominated the region for so long. Like that would definitely be my first pick. And then for the rest, I don't really know. I don't watch NA enough to like really have a good prediction, I think.
Fair enough. Do you follow any other region besides EU?
No, I mean for the most part, just focus on EU. Like I used to value like a bunch of other regions as well, but I feel like instead of valuing like the first place team on NA, I might as well just value the first and second place team on EU. I feel like it just makes more sense because the regions play a bit differently, and EU being the best region right now, I think it just makes more sense for me to put my time into watching that and valuing that.
Okay, that makes sense. Um, Now, when you go in and VOD review, is there someone you've learned the most from? Is there someone you enjoy watching and like taking in their gameplay? Because for me, just watching from a third party perspective, Malibukum or Stash, Sentin and Cold are probably two of my favorites to watch.
Mhm.
Granted, I don't need to like turn that into gameplay, but from your perspective, is there someone, whether it be now or over the past year or two, that you've really enjoyed watching and learning from and developed your gameplay to be similar to?
Yeah, so I think the two duos or the two players I've learned the most from are definitely Tayson and Seti. Seti and Kami, they just have such a solid game plan. They don't take any risk really. And they just play perfectly like a lot of the games they play. So I learned a lot from them, and then this season I also learned a lot from watching Tayson. He was like I think the first team I valued this season because I do think like now that I think about it, I think they qualified week one. So yeah, I learned a lot from them because they also play without grapplers. I implemented a lot of the things I saw Tayson do into my own gameplay and my own like IGLing. And yeah, but this season, like I pretty much valued everybody. Like this season was I think the season I valued the most, and I think it paid off as well. Like every FNCS qualifier, I valued like every duo that qualified. I valued every duo that did good in Cash Cup finals. I have a Discord where I write everything down. Yeah, like this season was crazy. I definitely learned a lot, but I think from like Queasy, Seti, and Tayson would be like my top three of like how much I've learned from them. Like they're all great players.
Makes sense. They're probably three of the best like IGLs maybe in the world, if not
Mhm.
just EU. But we'll find out the first part in a few months.
Yeah.
Now, can you give me like an example of something you've taken away or something you've learned? Because a lot of people like sit down VOD review and then it doesn't really help. Like all they did was watch the games. They didn't actually VOD review or find something to help them. Like what is something that you've learned from one of those guys that then you've put into your gameplay, and how exactly did you do that?
Yeah, so I think what you just said is completely true. I think a lot of people just like think they're VOD viewing and just watch people play, and then they don't write anything down. They don't like really try to analyze why they're doing what they're doing, and then they really never implement it into their own game. So they're kind of just wasting their time. But a really big thing that I learned from Tayson this season, I think, is the importance of rotating early. Like, I think Tayson, like most of the games, he would zone would pull and he's like instantly moving or even moving a bit before zone pulls because he's like on the edge and won't pull zone anyways. And people think like that's super risky in a finals lobby, but it just works so well. I also learned like him running on low ground, first moving, super free, instead of like trying to elevate and go weird layers. I think those are like the two main things. And then yeah, I won't talk about everything because then I'd just be leaking. But those are like two main things that I learned, I think.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think that's super important. Thank you for sharing that.
Mhm.
Because one of the biggest things is people like to VOD review, and then especially the people that don't like to VOD review will like simply just jump into a game, watch it. They'll be like, this person did this person did this, and like don't take away common themes or trends and like
Mhm.
actual pieces to take advantage of, and just take like one scenario where this person made an edit or like rotated in this one way in a singular game, and that's not super helpful to look at long term. But
Yep.
it's cool to hear you taking away like larger pieces and just watching EU Grand Finals. I remember you guys on the low ground several times making plays or like just rotating out in the open for free. So I can even
Yeah.
see those pieces you mentioned.
Yeah, definitely. I think also it's important when you VOD review that people look at like the entire game and they don't just like skip to end game. Because you kind of like want to know the story of the game, like what got them to the position they're at. And sometimes like mistakes you made in like the first or second zone are the ones that end up costing your game at 50-50 because you're just like super scuffed in a bad position. So you can't just look at endgame and then think like you're learning a lot. If you want to value, then actually take the time to look at everything. And I'd say like don't value too much every day. Like just watch like 3 games, but watch those 3 games in depth and know what you're like trying to learn. And then yeah, write stuff down. I put screenshots in my Discord while writing stuff down just so I can remember things. And then the next step would be like take what you learn and implement them into scrims. You're wasting your time if you just like are bored and you don't really want to value and you're just watching the game on like 4 times to just to get it over with. Like you're not really gonna learn anything.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that you just said. Have you worked with a coach this year or worked with anybody to get better? Because a common theme that I've noticed from a lot of the top players and teams have been working with somebody to help improvement. And it seems a lot more accepted over the past, let's say, year and a half to have a coach. Whereas, when it first was a thing, people were like, oh, Fortnite coaches suck. Maybe it's because they have credibility now and people have built kind of like a resume as a coach. But do you work with anybody, and like what's your kind of view on coaching in Fortnite?
Yeah, so this season, Flixie and I worked with Coach Lewis. He also coached Hydro and Belusi. And I think coaches are still super underrated. Like even if you think that you know more than the coach does, and that you have like more experience than the coach does, just having that like second like POV like just that insight from somebody else that maybe sees certain situations differently than you do, or like sometimes you just do a mistake, but you have an ego, so you don't want to accept that you made the mistake, or you generally don't realize it. Like it's just good to have that second person there that has a different insight, and maybe some things you don't agree on, but some things you do. And 100%, I think it's super important. You obviously don't want to work with like a random coach that like maybe is horrible, but I don't know. Coach Lewis definitely helped us a lot, and is definitely one of the reasons we improved a lot this season. It's also important to have a duo that is willing, like actually wants to have a coach and is willing to put in that time to really listen to what the coach has to say and implement that into your own game, or it's kind of a waste of money and time as well. But yeah, I think it's pretty important, and I think yeah, most like really good players have really good coaches as well. So yeah, it 100% helps.
Yeah, I mean, you look at any other game, any other like sport, coaches are helping the players, and it's not necessarily that they have to be even more knowledgeable about the game, because a lot of great coaches, what they bring to the table is getting greatness out of people that necessarily wouldn't have come out without someone pushing them or things like that. Obviously, it's a little harder in Fortnite because you don't have that interaction face to face on a regular basis, so it's
Yeah.
likely more technical. For you, what was like the biggest benefit of having a coach? If you had to pick like a singular thing of why you even want a coach, like what would that be?
Um, I think it's what I mentioned before, just having that like second pair of eyes to look over your games. That second person that can like if my duo and I Flixie argue about something and we both think we're right, just to have another opinion there, and having another guy that's like kind of motivating us to put in the work, and helping us doing so. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. Like for us, he didn't live coach us. Um, like me personally, I'm not a big fan of live coaching. Because when I get live coached, me being the IGL, I kind of like rely on the coach too much and like don't think about everything I want to think about. So that's why I don't like live coaching. But he live coached Hydro and Belusi. They did really good as well. I think it just depends on like what you need from a coach, and what you're looking for. But for me, yeah, just having that second like pair of eyes to look over your games and have like new ideas or things you didn't think about.
Yeah, that's been the most common theme when speaking of players is really just being that in between, not having to argue over like this was right or wrong, and having that person be like, here's what happened, this is what should have happened, right? And then it's not an argument between you and your duo every single time. Not that it is, right? But it's
Mhm.
easier to have those conversations when there's this unbiased third party watching what's going on. And that makes sense for you to not have like live coaching as an IGL because you understand the game very well, and it probably makes you second guess some things at times, which then slows down the entire process, and you can't play slow in this game. If you play slow or you waste time, it's not going to go well. Um, I would like to learn a little bit more about your duo in Flixia. I honestly don't know a ton about him. It just seems like a newer player to me compared to a lot. But can you tell me a little bit more about Flixie? Where's he from? How does he play? And like, how did you guys figure out that the duo works together?
Yeah, so Flixie is 16 years old. He lives in Germany as well. And he's actually made the past three grands. So he's made every grands this year. The first grands though, like they auto qualified, and his duo got banned. From Fortnite. I think it was because I'm not 100% sure, but I think his duo like used to cheat, and then he made a new account, and then he got banned for like ban evading or something like that. So he didn't even get to play the grands that he qualified for. Then the grands after that, he qualified with Kiduo, through like one of the last reboot round games, like Heat 3. And then yeah, I was in that season he was playing with Kiduo. I was playing with Globshi, and he couldn't play FNCS because he went to like Africa with his family. So I was looking for a duo, and I definitely when I look for a duo, I definitely want somebody that puts in a lot of time, and that like I want to play with like a fragger. I want somebody that can just go crazy, full piece two kids and 200 pump both of them, you know? So Pacey is like super fast. And there's not a lot of kids like that, younger people that grind a lot, and actually like really want to make this work, that really pursuing this dream, that actually listen to the IGL and that want to improve from mistakes while being like crazy at doing what they're doing. And that's what I saw in Flixie. Like his parents just allowed him to take a year off of school to pursue Fortnite. And I know he takes it super seriously. So I think that that's super important for me because I'm someone that wants to really make this work and put in so much time, and I don't want anybody that I would have to beg him to play customs with me, where I have to beg him to value. Um, so that's really important. And then I think yeah, we just fit well together because we both really want to put in the time. We both learn from mistakes. I think we improve pretty fast together. And then yeah, I'm just like the brains and he's the fragger, and it just works well together. But at the beginning when we were playing together, we didn't really know if it's gonna work. Because the first three duo cash ups we played together this season, we didn't qual to any of them. But I think I kind of had an idea. Like I think I knew like this guy's really good if we stick, and I kind of like help him fix some things, and I fix some things on my own. I think it can work very well. And then yeah, we just had like I had the best season I've ever had after that. Like we qualified the three next dual cash cups back to back. We made all three weekly finals in FNCS. We got sixth place in one of them, almost auto qualified, and then qualified heat like qualified grands and heat one. And I like the last grands I made before that was solo invitational. So super long time ago. So I'm like extremely proud of how this season went so far, and that's yeah. Part of it is just because of Flixie being so good, and then the other part is I think I just outwork 99.9% of the pros, and I really want to make this work. So I think I have a drive and passion that not that many players have.
Good for you, man. And respect to both you and Flixie for putting in the effort and the time. I feel like a lot of people and players within the space, if they don't qual for three cash cups in a row, like you're looking for a new duo
Yeah.
immediately. Um, so that's a rarity. And the fact that you guys were able to make it work and then produce results, not even just stick together and have nothing work, but that continued improvement. That's really cool to see, and I hope you guys continue to improve and do well in the future for whatever that is. I don't think either of us really know what's coming up next.
Nobody knows. Yeah.
We got a lot of late game cups coming up soon that are trios. We have solo and duo cups, and so this is something that just came to my mind saying that, but how do you feel about all of the tournaments that are going on right now? Do you feel like you have to play everything? I know with your grind mentality, you want to play a lot, but you have duo cash cups, which if you qual for finals are 2 days a week. You have solo cash cups, which if you qual for finals are 2 days a week. Let's say you don't even qual for either finals. That's still 2 days. Then you have trio cash cups on Friday. Then there is definitely other tournaments that pop up like third parties and things like that. Do you think we have too much going on right now in Fortnite, or is this good to help sustain like competitive Fortnite?
I think it's a pretty hard question, but I think like after Grands is over, we shouldn't have this long of a like the season shouldn't take that long to end after Grands is over. Like Grands should be like the last tournament of the season. Maybe have like 1 week of cash ups after, and then just have like a 2 week break of tournaments because us Fortnite players we don't know when we're able to just chill with family or like for example this year my family wanted to go to like Greece, and like I can't plan like 3 months before, and I'm never gonna know if I have time or not because we just never know, and I'm not gonna skip an FNCS to go on vacation. um but yeah, I think it would just be super nice to like after grants to have like 2 weeks of nothing. Like I'd probably still like grind the game a bit, but just have like to just have that mental reset and then like just full grind going to next season because I don't think any pro player can do that if there's tournaments on. Like obviously you could just not play the tournaments, but then you're just falling back like on PR, on money, on like learning. Like you can't just let people outgrind you and play tournaments while you're doing nothing. So I think the season should be planned better. That we have those full grind like weeks before grands, and then after grands have like 2 week break, and then go into next season start full grinding again.
Yeah, that makes sense. Almost instead of having a preseason where there's nothing, have a preseason where there's cash cups and things like that. And then have like a week or two before FNCS starts. So you get 3 weeks to a month of like a build up to FNCS, and then you have your month of FNCS, and then after that, that's it. We're done. Chill. Do whatever content stuff you got to do. We don't necessarily need tournaments, and then repeat the cycle. Hopefully, though, it's a little different next year. I'm very hopeful we get some like in-person stuff that breaks up the monotony of FNCS, because it has seemed very monotonous this year with it
Yeah.
just being back to back to back. And until pretty much this FNCS, we had no idea that there was really anything connected to performing in like X place and getting that invite. So
Mhm.
hopefully next year's better, has a little more at stake, that builds kind of a narrative and makes it more interesting and more engaging for the overall community. I like that idea.
Yeah, I also I don't understand why Fortnite didn't clearly communicate since the start of the year, saying like, because they knew this invitation is gonna happen 100%. I don't think this is like a short-term thing. So why not just say at the start of the season, hey, look, performing really good in one FNCS will get you invited to the invitational, or maybe even like say top 7 in EU gets invited. I don't know, top 3 in NA. I don't know why we just have to like guess, or like didn't even know that this was happening until this FNCS. But and then going back to the cash cups, I mean, if Fortnite, like, I'd still rather play more cash cups than less. Like, I don't want them to just like cut away like 5 cash cups because they think we need a break after FNCS. But yeah, I think having like a 1 or 2 week break would be really good.
Yeah, I think the not clearly stating what the requirements were for Invitational at the beginning of the year was a big miss. I think we easily could have built like much more interest in the entire year of competitive if,
Yeah,
come beginning of the year, they're like, we plan on doing the Invitational, and then this is the requirement based on your region, pretty much like what World Cup was, like an
yeah,
online qualifier into an in-person event. But like, I understand why they couldn't have, because the Invitational was probably still in the planning and stages and making sure everything was going to happen before the first FNCS happened. um Likely they had most of it locked in, but probably not like 100%. And then obviously the war in Ukraine happened, and like, we saw Russian and Ukrainian players were not invited at first, and I don't know what exactly happened with those two, but they figured something out as far as Malibuka and Grols to be able to get to uh, the U.S. Well, hopefully, knock on wood, they're able to get a visa and get over here. I think it made it more complicated, and likely was the reason why they just straight up said it's an invitational. Because also, say you have someone that finishes top 3 in an FNCS and just shit talks all the time, right? They're just like a terrible representation of the game. You don't necessarily want to bring that person to a bigger stage and, prop them up, which is what's going to be the invitational. So I understand both perspectives. I'm with you. I do think it was a miss, but I can also understand why they didn't straight up say that, or they might not even have known. Like, that could also have just
yeah.
been an option.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But like, there's like I think 2 players in you that I feel super bad about. Like, Stormy should have gotten invited if Malibuka got invited. Like,
100%.
I feel super bad for him. And then I have no idea at all why Paco is not a backup player. Like, top 12 got invited. Last time it says he got 13th. Like, it was one place off of being invited, and he's 18 or older, and he's not a backup player. And then I don't know. I definitely thought about like why am I invited 25th place and not Paco who got 13th place. So I definitely feel bad for him. I wonder why that's the case. Nobody knows, and we will I guess never know. But there's just some weird things that like I wish we had more clarification on some things in Fortnite.
Yeah, the comms definitely could be improved at times.
They've definitely been better this year though.
Yeah, 100%. Last year was almost just like a black hole play and whatever showed up in the compete tab, and now we've actually got
Yeah.
some communication. My guess for the backup players is they've kind of wanted to reward people that have been like a good figure in the community. I feel like you've been a pretty good figure within the community. I mean, you haven't had the same placements as like a Paco, like you just mentioned, but I mean, there's people that have been in this space creating content, being a good figure, and not being a jackass on social media has probably paid off for you right here with, being invited.
Yeah, maybe that's the case. Yeah.
All right, but let's start to wrap this up. I've got
Mhm.
you for about an hour here. So thank you, first of all, for joining. I got a couple questions to finish. First of
Mhm.
all, where does the name Fray come from? How did you get that name?
Okay, so I was playing like League of Legends and CS and PUBG before Fortnite, and my name was like A Heroic Alpaca or just Alpaca. Like I googled like funny names, and then I saw that name, and then I just took it. Um, but then eventually, like I'm just gonna try to keep it short. But I was in the NA Pro Discord, and almost nobody knows this, but I got like perma banned from the NA Pro Discord because of some like dumb joke I made. Like I was just young back then. And then I needed to like I was just sitting in my bed like trying to make a new identity, and then I was a big fan of Poach. His name is 5 letters and doesn't really mean anything, and I felt like a lot of pro players had like short names that just kind of like sound good and don't mean anything. And then I don't know how, but somehow like I got to the name Frey and I instantly liked it. I think it's a like really clean name. Um, and then yeah, that's pretty much how that name came to be.
Nice. What was your name before you got banned? That's
Yeah, alpaca, alpaca.
okay. Interesting, interesting. And then
Yeah.
your favorite Fortnite skin.
Favorite Fortnite skin. I feel like I play the best. Like I'm a type. There's people that when they play bad, they like switch the skin and then they think they play better. But I'm like, I need to play like the same skin almost always. So I'd say right now it's definitely just like a clean white superhero skin. That's what
Okay.
I feel like the best on. I really like Ghoul Trooper as well. Yeah,
Cool.
that's pretty much it.
And last but certainly not least, where can people find you on social media? What are you going to be up to? Give yourself a shout.
All right, so on Twitter it's FrayFN. On Twitch it's just Fray. And on YouTube it's FrayFN as well. And I'm definitely gonna try to grind streaming a lot more. So just make sure to check my Twitch out, put those noties on my Twitter as well, so you know when I'm live. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Nice. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, man. I really appreciate it. And thank you to anyone consuming this, whether it be on YouTube, Spotify, or some other audio platform. Thank you very much. I hope you all enjoyed. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead, send me a DM on Twitter at somebody's gun. And we will see you guys next time. This has been another episode of the FN Story. Peace.
Peace.